Hey folks, welcome back. We're looking at section 8 of chapter 12, discussing a new foreign policy challenge as it relates to President Monroe. So some background on it. James Monroe becomes president in 1817. Americans were relieved to return to a policy of isolationism after the War of 1812. Attention shifted from Europe to events occurring in Central and South America. So it's important to understand we've talked a lot, again, a review, but we've talked a lot about history being non-linear, and that there's other events that impact the particular timeline that we're looking at. So we have the war, the end of the War of 1812. During that war, Britain was able to take attention away from what was going on in Europe. Napoleon was defeated, so they were able to send all those troops over to the United States to help their cause in the War of 1812. And then for the United States itself, they were able to look more inwardly and not be so focused on what was going on outside of their boundaries. So when we look at the map here, we see a lot of green. Right, a lot of green here, and those are Spanish colonies. Okay, so Spain is still a major player in the Western Hemisphere, not so much in North America, more so in Central and South America. Your textbook refers to the entire region, basically south of the United States, so Mexico South, as being part of Latin America. And that's important because these countries are going to start, these colonies are going to start to look to throw off bondage to Spain, basically revolution fever that started with the British colonies that became the United States and then occurring in France has spread to these other places in Southern North America and South America. So from Mexico to Argentina, nations were rising up in revolt from centuries of Spanish rule. So the revolutions in these two places in Mexico, the revolt is inspired by Miguel Hidalgo. He roused the public to recover the land essentially stolen by the Spanish. He gives a speech that's remembered as the Cry of Dolores, basically inspiring everybody to go out and fight the Spanish rulers and throw off the power that they had over Mexico. In 1821, Mexico is going to win its independence from Spain. This artwork is depicting that speech he gives, the Cry of Dolores. In South America, then, revolution in the north is led by Venezuelan Simon Bolivar. And we'll see with both him and the next gentleman we talk about, they do have military background, which influences the success that the revolutions do have. In the south, it's led by Argentinian Jose de San Martin. By the end of 1826, the last of the Spanish troops are driven from South America. So what were once colonies now are independent nations, and this is going to impact the relations that the United States has with these countries, and then the relations that nations in Europe are trying to build up with these new countries as well. So there's excitement about the independence movements. Spain did not allow other nations to trade with its colonies in these locations. They kept basically a closed system of colonization. So North America, the United States, Great Britain were really excited about expanding trade routes, opening new markets. Both the Americans and the British were supportive of the revolutions. The U.S. saw the decrease in Spanish presence in North and South America and opportunities for increased trade. Britain was thinking about an increase in potential trade as well. So revolutions were feared by some of the other European countries, though. These were countries that still had colonial a lot of colonial possessions, whether they were in Latin America or in Africa or located over in Asia. They wanted to either like squash the revolutions or get back territory that was lost as a result of these revolts and the colonies fighting for their freedom. They looked for ways to help Spain, so they wanted to be supportive of Spain. Great Britain wanted to draft a joint message with the United States to tell other countries to leave Latin and South America alone. Monroe's response then, he's going to go and ask former presidents for advice, specifically Jefferson and Madison, and he has to decide how can the U.S. support the new countries and still look to maintain that neutrality and isolationism that the country wanted to get back to. So in Section 9, we'll look at what Monroe's response was and how that impacts foreign policy on a global scale.